Okay, we're gonna do a remote slave. So we're gonna lay it out a little bit. I'm using a S3, I think it's a T4000 case. I'm not sure which it is. But I have a slave here. It's a 2600. And I need to figure out what layout I want to use. So I'm going to lay this out in this case. Figure out where I need everything. And for this build, I'm using an AOI setup for a slave. You know, on my AOI, I have the CDS mounted on the board, so I'll need to be able to see through the case till it's day or night. And we'll figure out our layout. And I will use a pipe through for this. So basically, this is going to be my layout. The eye about, board about right in here, somewhere in there. And that's going to be my layout. And I'll also need some lock line. So I got some lock line here. And I like to use the fitting. The way I can drill it into the case here. And put my fitting and put everything on top of it. And I'll put a clear jar at the end for my photo transistor to go onto. So we'll assemble that and we'll show you how to put all this together. So there's my lock line assembled. And like I said, we'll drill this into the case and it'll come out here, and this will be where my photo transistor, and this will detect my flash from my camera, from my regular camera. Now I'm going to lay out where I want my flash tube. I'm going to mark it off. Now make sure when you're handling the slave that your capacitor is discharged. Now I marked where my flash tube is. So that's approximately where I want it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill out for my flash. So I'm going to drill two 1-inch holes here and here, 2 inches apart, 2 inches total apart. And that'll give me a hole to glue my flash and everything to. And I'll need to take a Dremel and clean up the sides so I have a straight hole. And we'll drill it and I'll show you what I mean. Now I drilled my hole for my flash. It's about 1 3/4 wide from here to here. About 1 3/4. And then what I can do is I can glue my lens on, or my holes, my two center holes for my 1-inch holes would be 800 thousandths. So I'll glue that in. I'll glue the lens in, then I can glue my flash tube on top of it. Here's another step I do. I take two pieces of tubing and I cut them down. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to space my board off with these. Use them as a spacer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to goop just like that. I'm going to put that on there. But I'm going to goop it down. And I sliced them up the side. This is tubing. Some 3/8 tubing. And I just sliced it down the side. And that way it'll fit right on the board. And this will be my spacer. So what I'll do is I'm going to use some goop. I'll put that right on there. I'm going to slide that on that board and I'll let it dry. It's one. And you'll see later what I'm doing. I'm just using it as space. I don't like to glue the board flat down. Plus standing it up gives me more room. So whenever it cooperates. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to glue that like that. Just something I do. I don't know if other people do it or not. But. And that'll space me out. I put my capacitor on there. Or my resistor here, I'm sorry. I put my resistor there. And that'll space me out and I'll be able to glue that right to the top of my build. Okay, I'm ready to put everything dried. Now I'm ready to put my board and stuff in. And what I'm going to do, once I get it in right, is I'm going to glue the board in first. I want to rough those corners up a little bit. Rough it up a little bit where I'm going to glue that. Sit that in. Now I want to also glue my capacitor in. So I want to glue my capacitor in then, so I get my wires away from everything. Now it's up to you how you want to do this. I installed a pipe. I made a pipe through, so I drilled, stuck a pipe in, I gooped it in. You may not want to do it this way. You can do a bunch of different ways. This is the way I decided to do it. Now my pipe moved a little bit. I'm a little crooked. Wow, I'm not used to that. So that's one way to doing things. You can put a bracket in the back. There's just so many different ways you can attach a cam or the slave to a tray. Now, as I said, I'm using an AOI board. No PIR, but I do have a CDS. And what I do is I put the blank board on a copier and I can't copy it out. So when I mark this out as a template, and that's what I'm using this for, is a template, I'm going to mark out your 4 holes in your CDS, and we'll show that here in a second. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to mark out this hole for my mounting, this hole. Now what I would normally do is mark out the PIR, but since I'm not using a PIR, I want the center of the CDS, so I'm going to mark right there. And what that does is that bleeds through. Right there's that one. So I can tape this in. What I'm going to do now is tape that into my case so that I have my drilling holes. But I kind of want to look at my configuration. See if I can get it right here. I want my 4 hole at the top for some reason. I'm going to put that in there. I'm going to center it. And I'm going to tape that in. And once that's taped in, I want to drill my 4 mounting holes, and that's my CDS, or my day and night sensor. That's all I need. Now, some boards, now you don't have to use an AR, you can use any board you want. The Slave Master or RC Davis board, you do the same thing. You mount your board, and you're going to have to drill a hole through the case so the case can see outside. I probably, since I'm using a clear case, I'm not going to drill through it. I'll just put a piece of tape over that area, and I won't drill it. Well, maybe I will, because I do got some gray, so I probably will drill that and put that in. So I need to drill my 4 holes, and I'll drill this one like 1/4 inch, 3/8, something like that. Now I drilled my holes. You see I drilled my 4 holes. And I drilled my front hole for my CDS. So I can remove my template now, clean up my holes, and I'm ready to mount my board. Now, I put my standoffs in. This doesn't really matter too much. I just need enough standoffs to get past my components, which I put a 1/2 inch in. That's what I normally use for a standard AOI board. So I put my standoffs in. Now I'll mount my board in. And like I said, you know, your mounting depends on your board. It depends on what you're using. This is not a big deal, but always remember your CDS needs to be able to see light. I decided to drill that and put a glass lens over it so I can see a little bit better. So we'll mount the board. Okay, I have my board mounted in. And on the bottom I only have a 2 plug. That's for my collector and emitter. And that's what we're going to work on now. I'm going to use a piece, I have that piece of lock line here. And what I want to do now is I want to drill my case. So I put my lock line in. Now I do got to make sure I leave enough room for a switch for the AOI board. So I'll probably mount that in the bottom here too. So I'm probably going to put my lock line over here, and I'll put my switch over here. And what I'll do, I'll drill a hole and I'll goop that in. But I may not goop it right away because I need to run wires from my emitter and collector all the way out here so I can mount my photo transistor. So we'll drill this hole first.